Once upon a time, in the heart of nature, there was a big and magical forest. This forest was so old and full of mysteries that no one really knew how long it had been there. The trees were ancient, their trunks covered with signs of time, and their branches stretched high into the sky, like they were reaching for the stars. The flowers and plants were colorful and always seemed to bloom in the right season. The animals who lived in the forest were different too. They didn't just walk around or hide in the trees, they could talk to each other. And they could even talk to people who respected nature. One sunny morning, a little girl named Lina decided to visit the magical forest. Lina loved nature more than anything. She loved the way the trees swayed in the wind, how the birds sang in the early morning, and how the flowers seemed to smile at her as she passed by. She often wandered in the forest near her home, but today she felt something special. She felt that she was ready to learn more about the forest and its secrets. With her backpack and her favorite hat, Lina stepped into the woods. As soon as she entered the forest, she felt the magic in the air. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the forest floor. The air was fresh and smelled like pine trees and wildflowers. Birds were singing songs, and every now and then, a squirrel would scamper by, its fluffy tail bouncing behind it. But today, there was something different. Lina noticed that the forest was more alive than usual. It seemed like everything around her was waiting for her to discover something important. Lina walked deeper into the forest, enjoying the sounds and smells around her. She reached a small clearing and saw a beautiful, colorful leaf floating down from a tree. It was different from the others. It had a golden shine on it that sparkled in the sunlight. Lina reached out and caught the leaf, feeling its soft texture in her hands. As soon as she touched it, a strange, gentle voice whispered in her ear, "Follow me." Lina looked around, but she couldn't see anyone. The forest seemed calm, but the voice was still in her ears. She looked at the leaf again, and the golden mark on it seemed to glow brighter. It was as if the leaf itself was asking her to follow the trail it had left behind. Without thinking twice, Lina decided to follow the glowing path. The golden trail led her through the forest, deeper and deeper, until she reached a massive tree. The tree's trunk was wide and twisted, and its branches seemed to touch the sky. Lina felt a sense of awe. This was no ordinary tree. It looked like it had been standing for centuries, and its bark seemed to shimmer with an ancient magic. As she approached the tree, it spoke in a deep, kind voice. "Welcome, little one." Lina gasped in surprise. The tree continued, "I am an ancient tree. Here in this forest, all trees, plants, and animals can talk. But only those who respect nature and listen carefully can understand us." Lina listened closely to the tree's words. She could feel the wisdom in the air, and she knew that this was a special moment. The tree continued, "The forest holds many secrets, little one. If you wish to learn them, you must listen to the forest and respect its creatures." Just then, Lina heard a soft cry. She turned around and saw a small bird sitting on the ground, its wing bent in a strange way. It looked hurt. Lina immediately rushed over to the bird, kneeling down beside it. She gently picked up the little bird and cradled it in her hands. The bird felt warm and safe in her arms. Lina whispered, "Don't worry, I'll take you to the healing trees." Lina began to walk through the forest, with the bird still carefully cradled in her arms. As they walked, Lina noticed even more magical things around her. The flowers seemed to open up as they passed, their petals glowing like stars. The wind whispered through the trees, and the sunbeams danced on the forest floor. Every corner of the forest was alive with magic, and Lina felt as if she had entered a world of wonders. As they walked further into the forest, a rabbit suddenly hopped in front of them. It was a fluffy, brown rabbit with big ears, and it looked very curious about Lina. The rabbit stared at her for a moment and then hopped ahead. Lina followed with the bird still carefully cradled in her arms. The journey was long, but Lina didn't mind. The forest was so full of life and beauty that she didn't feel tired. Along the way, she met more animals who shared their wisdom with her. A wise old owl perched on a branch above her. A family of deer quietly passed by, nodding their heads in greeting. Lina could feel the kindness and wisdom of the forest all around her. Finally, after a long journey, they reached the healing trees. These trees were unlike any others. Their trunks were covered in soft moss, and their leaves shimmered in a way that made them look like they were made of silver. The trees seemed to hum with magic. Lina gently placed the bird near the roots of one of the trees and waited. She felt a warm breeze flow through the forest, and slowly, the bird began to stir. The bird flapped its wings carefully, then stretched them out fully. At first, it was shaky, but soon, it was flying high into the sky, its wings strong and steady again. The bird flew up higher, and a bright light followed it. The light surrounded Lina, filling her with warmth and love. It was a magic that came from the forest itself. This gift, the bird's presence seemed to say, is for you to carry always. It will remind you of the beauty and kindness of nature. Lina smiled and watched the bird disappear into the sky. She knew she would never forget this moment or the lessons she had learned from the forest. She stood there for a long time, looking around at the healing trees and the animals that lived in the forest. She felt connected to them all, as if she was part of something much bigger than herself. Before she left, Lina turned to the trees and promised she would return. With a heart full of love and magic, she walked out of the forest, knowing that every visit would bring new discoveries and new friends. And so, Lina learned that the forest wasn't just a place to visit. It was a home for everyone who cared for nature. It was a place where friendships were formed, kindness was shared, and secrets of the earth were kept safe.